You're listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Comunio here, and we are back with episode 58 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. And I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today, bro?
Doing pretty good, man. I really don't have much of an update, especially for that house that I'm still trying to buy. That's just been the saddest story of my life, I swear. It ain't going too good because properties just are not coming up right now on the MLS altogether. And it's pretty slow, but the ones that do come up that are good, they're gone within 30 minutes. I can't remember if I told that story or not, but I offered on one house and I literally said, this is the one right here because it met all my criteria. I offered on it within 30 minutes of being on the market. I was the first save on Zillow, and they literally told me, yeah, we're entertaining another offer. I said, all right. But if what's for me is for me. I give up because I don't know what more I can do. I have all the alerts set up and everything. It's literally that hot of a market, and there's plenty of people looking for housing. So if y'all have a house that y'all trying to sell out in Houston, it's probably going to be gone pretty quick because there's a very strong buyer's market right now. Or it's a seller's market, actually, because the sellers can just take their picks. Like, I actually submitted a backup offer for that same house, $5,000 over asking, just in case they just get to give them something to think about for if with their current buyer, just because I'm trying to see what I can do. But it was a pretty good house overall, though. Other than that, though, we actually did close on the mobile home yesterday, too. So we finally got that one. I think we've been looking at that one for like 3 or 4 months now. It's been crazy how long that closing has been, just trying to get to that point. But we are officially closed on that one, too. And we'll be trying to get a tenant in there or even get it sold here in like the next month. So that's my update overall. How you been, bro?
Oh, man, that's good. Well, that is unfortunate. But like you said, what's for you is for you. And, you're going to get that property. That when I heard that, though, that I was like, yo, I don't know. You might have to move out of Houston or something, bro. They tweak it out there, bro. But, I mean, that's just real estate right now. Honestly, in Texas, real estate is hot in every major city in Texas. It is super. I was just having this conversation today about how competitive it is. I mean, even anything, man. I mean, even these wholesalers, man, you fighting for crumbs of the deal. They taking everything, you fighting for crumbs. And it's like, yo, where's the margin on this? But that's just the market is. It's definitely a seller's market where they have all the leverage. And buyers just got to, oh, well, cry about it. Because there's nothing really you could do. But, that's good. And that mobile home, too. I swear, I said it was like closing on a 300-unit apartment complex for that mobile home. Because that joint took too long to close. I don't know why it was taking that long. But that's good that's closed. Hopefully, get that rented out. Or flip it, be easy flip. But yeah, for me, I mean, I just been in grind mode for these last, what is it, October? I'm not gonna say the day, but October, what's the 14th? And I've been in grind mode really since these last like 6 weeks, in regards to this commercial multifamily apartment complexes. So I really just been studying, and I feel like I'm, prepping for a freaking engineering exam again back in school, just based off of all the information and the knowledge and the stuff that I'm learning. But man, it's so exciting. It's so, fruitful. It's so enjoyable. I get so much thrill out of learning this stuff and studying commercial multifamily and real estate, man. It's honestly, it's a passion, like learning new information and studying this stuff. It fuels me, and it makes me like want to, just be the best. I literally feel like there's nobody on earth that can, outsmart me just based off of what and what I know. Like, my goal is always to walk into everything as the person with the most knowledge. And that I feel is going to always equip me to win in every situation I put myself in. So just been studying, man. I took a course that was like over $2,000 and read already, 2 books on and I read those in like 4 days, and reading, watching webinars and YouTube videos, man. It's just a nonstop thing, but it's not even a grind though. I love it so much that it's just I have fun. I enjoy doing it. So, the goal is to get that first apartment complex in 2021. I'm speaking it into existence, and we're gonna make it happen. So that being said, though,
I want to comment on that though real quick, because I know one thing you always go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I don't know if you're about to jump into the actual episode yet, because I was trying to. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah. Before you get into no, you got it.
Okay, whatever. But dang, I forgot what I was about to say now. Oh no, that's your personality though. So, like, your personality is just like always about learning, always learn new information, and that's one thing that you can really bring to the table with it whenever you get into any type of business or real estate venture. And when you, like, we always talk about the three aspects of time, energy, and money. Like, you bring the energy or bring the hustle, knowledge, all that's just synonymous with each other, and you also have the time in order to get all that knowledge. So now you're just pretty much implementing. Well, no, you can pretty much educate somebody else, or just make somebody more comfortable with, like, even lending you money, because that's why you can really leverage all your knowledge in order to, like, syndicate these future deals coming up, or raise private capital, because you're just acquiring all the knowledge, and then now you're making people more comfortable investing with you. We already have, like, the podcast, and we have all the different deals that we've done to build credibility, but now you can bring people at ease when you can, like, talk to them in terms that they speak. Like, when you are talking real estate, you need to know different terms in order to make sure that people, to show that you are knowledgeable in the area, especially like talking to lenders, talking to mortgage brokers. There's like a certain lingo to every business that you're trying to get into, and if you don't know the lingo, then you're not going to really even know how to get your foot in the door. So that's one thing that you're really taking advantage of by learning all this stuff so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, that's definitely, commercial real estate is a new avenue. It's a new ball game. Like, we rolling with the big dogs, bro, and they not entertaining anybody that comes in there saying, hey, do you have a good deal? Like, that ain't how you get deals. So you really got to know your stuff, and that's my goal. I don't want anyone to outsmart me. So, but you did mention lending, so I did want to kind of bring this up real quick. If anyone is actually interested in being a part owner of this apartment complex, going to be offering that opportunity very soon in regards to limited partners or investors in the apartment complex. If anyone is interested, and the minimum investment, I will say, is $25,000. We're looking $25,000 to $50,000. If anyone is interested in being a part owner of an apartment complex, that's going to be probably more so of a long-term hold, but we're going to be offering great returns, anything better, way better than anything you're getting in the stock market, likely above 15% average annual returns when we talk about the cash flow, the appreciation, the equity, the loan pay down. All that stuff is going to be factored into your returns as a partner of this apartment complex. So if you are interested in that, feel free to hit me up, email us on at info@moneymonopolizers.com, or you can hit me on IG, Alex Camuno. Hit the website. I'm actually creating a website for this, which is going to be monopolyvaultventures.com. I already have it, but something had went off with that. So, but I don't want to talk too long about this because I do want to get into the episode.
Yeah, I got one more thing though, but I should mention this earlier. So I know I've been working. I said I was working on the website a little bit, and so one thing that we have coming out now is going to be finally the Money Monopolizers t-shirts. So I know y'all been seeing us wear these consistently, and I've got in my DMs quite a few times. Hey man, where the shirt at? So I finally just took like the last few weeks, actually probably the past month and a half, just getting the website together to make sure that it can include a shop page for selling these t-shirts. So y'all go to moneymonopolizers.com/shop, and y'all will actually see two iterations of the shirt. One is in light gray, one is going to be in white. And we have pre-sales going on. It should be going on when this actually airs. and they should go on for about a week. So I use coupon code WEALTH in order to get 20% off in your cart when you are looking to buy one. And we'll start sending those out probably as soon as next week. So just want to put that out there as well.
There you go. Get your merch. Get your merch. Well, cool. Oh, last thing too. Whew. This has been long. I promise we're gonna get into the episode. If you didn't skip, shout out to you. But last thing I want to say is I am about to start releasing content for YouTube on the Money Monopolizers YouTube channel. I have been working last few days on getting that ready to up and go. I'm about to be pushing out, a good amount of videos indefinitely for now. But, just another way to reach people. I think, that's going to be another powerful avenue. So definitely go subscribe on YouTube. We also put the podcast on YouTube too. So if you've been listening to this on, whatever listening platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you could go watch us on YouTube. So
check out our beautiful faces.
Yeah, facts. But yeah, more content coming. We got a lot of stuff rolling out. We're finishing Q4 2020 real strong, and we're gonna go into 2021, full steam ahead. So,
11 minutes. Let's get it.
11 minutes later, let's get into this episode. So, for this episode, there was something I really wanted to talk about, and I haven't even really talked about this. Me and Marlon haven't talked about this yet. Like typically when we do an episode, we will talk about the topic a little bit beforehand and then, do the episode, have some talking points. But this going to be, I told him what I want to talk about, but beyond that, he has no idea what I got, in the pipeline or in the cartridge. So this past weekend, I was in Houston, right? And I went to Houston for my god sister's housewarming party. And when I was there, I realized something. I realized that there is a pandemic among us.
Man, just now figured it out, huh? It only took 6 months or 7 months.
Yeah.
Bro, we in a pandemic.
I'm not talking about the coronavirus.
Okay.
There is something else spreading in the air. Something is, infecting folks. And it is spreading rapidly. And I want to bring awareness to it in this episode, if we haven't already in the past, in bits and pieces. The virus I'm talking about is the victim virus. The victim virus, or the woe is me disease. It is spreading very rapidly, and it is, infecting many, 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 many people. And I realized this last weekend when I was in Houston at this housewarming party, because, these folks, they kind of ganged up on me based off of, what I was, my views in regards to the system and, capitalism and all these kind of things, right? So I will just be straight up. So we pretty much, it wasn't an argument, but we had a discussion. One thing about me is I love having heated discussions. I love it. I live for those. But there was an argument, and pretty much my god sister, she was making the point that the system is not designed for minorities to succeed. And so when I say minorities, I'm pretty much saying not necessarily even black people. I'm just saying minorities in regards to not so much women, because obviously there's a lot more, successful women today than even men. In regards to just the everyday average woman, you see a lot more women becoming educated and making more money than men. But in regards to, I would say primarily in regards to, yes, race, but even other factors. So, minorities meaning black people, Hispanic people, any marginalized person, essentially. So anyone that isn't necessarily an older white man, if you will, and that the system isn't necessarily designed for anyone except them to succeed. And when she says system, essentially what she meant is the capitalism system, right? Capitalism, she was saying that it's only designed for this demographic of people, which is older white men, right? And she essentially said that I'm an outlier kind of because in my situation, I come from a family that believes in me and tells me that I can do it. And so I have a support system that a lot of minorities or black people don't really have, or I'll say, instead of saying minorities, I'll say marginalized people, marginalized black people, whatever, that don't really have, right? So now that was her argument. And one thing about me is I said, I'm not going to put nobody on blast, but I want to be very objective and present her side completely, right? So I feel like that was a very objective presentation. Now, before I get into it, I'm going to ask you, Marlon, do you want me to give the spicy soup or the mild soup in this take? Because just be aware, I don't know if y'all listen to the roommates, but this is something that they talk about on there sometimes. They say, hey, yo, you can get that spicy Nigerian pepper soup, or you can get the clam chowder, right? So which one should I give to people, Marlon?
Come on with the spicy, man. People need to hear a lot of stuff we finna say today. And I also want to get my take on before we even get started, because I'm not gonna give a take.
Oh,
I'm gonna just because I am not going to be opposed to what you say, but I will say that I'm going to try my very best to be as objective and neutral as possible and give both perspectives as best as I can, because I do understand where a lot of people come from, because after seeing where I grew up in growing in the city of Detroit, I'm going to try to give that perspective outside of where I'm currently at. So I will say that, but let's get with it though.
Very well. Very well. That's fair. Okay. So Marlon said it. Marlon said the people want the spicy Nigerian pepper soup, not the clam chowder. But if that's what the people want, I'm gonna give it to the people. So my whole take on this situation, number one, I believe that the system is a myth and it's an excuse. It's not a real thing, right? People always want to attribute to where they are in life due to an outside circumstance, right? So typically what happens is, someone, they might necessarily, and I'm gonna give pretty much my whole spiel, and then you'll give your take, and then we'll kind of probably, talk about a little bit and then wrap it up. But people, they want to, say that where they are isn't necessarily due to any reasoning of their own. They don't want to contribute it to anything of their own, right? They don't want to say that they're broke because they have bad money habits. They would rather say that they're broke and that they're poor because, they grew up in this environment of, poverty and, a lack of resources, if you will, right? And I don't necessarily believe that is fair to say that that's the reason people are in the situations they put themselves, or the situation that they're in, not that they put themselves. Because yes, of course, I'm not ignorant. I mean, I'm a black man in America. I'm not saying that there are no things that are out against you, that there's no external factors, right? But my whole thing about it is I don't care about the external factors. I don't care. They don't control me. The system doesn't control me. There is nothing that anyone can do. There is nothing, not one person, no thing one person can do that can make me live my life a certain way that I don't want to live it. Bottom line, there's nothing. There's not the government, not my parents, not my employer, not the group of friends I'm around. There's nothing that anyone or anything around me can do to make me live a certain way that I don't feel like I want to live. If I feel like I'm in unideal circumstances, it is not anyone else's fault for being there except your own. Now, it's not saying this is where people messed up, right? People don't understand that life isn't fair, right? People do not understand. And this is really this is a root of that victim virus. People don't understand life isn't fair. But a fair is, like Stephen A. Smith always say, a fair is where they judge pigs, number one. Now, I'm a firm believer in the fact that, everyone's life is different, obviously, right? Everyone comes up in a different situation, and you are given what you're given. A lot of people want to complain and say that life isn't fair, but yes, it's not. It's not supposed to be. If it was fair, everyone would start in the same place, but that's not the case. Everyone starts at a different place, right? Some are given, you're born into wealth. Some people are born into poverty. Some people are born into middle class. Some people are born with a single mother. Some people are born into abuse. Some people are born into, being black. Some people are born, being overweight. All of those things are situations that you have no control over when in the beginning, right? I can't pick what family I'm born into. I can't pick if I'm going to be born into wealth. I can't pick if I'm going to be born into poverty. LeBron James, look at him. 18 years old phenom, was making millions of dollars in the NBA. At 18 years old, had millions of dollars. Other, we see prodigies all the time that kind of have similar situations. And meanwhile, there's other people that have to kind of, if we just say basketball, for example, someone has to grow up. They have to go to high school, go to college, then go to the Euro League, then go to the G League, then go to the NBA and be a bench player. And that's their path, right? Everyone's path is different. And some people, you have to work harder than others. That's just what it is. I don't make the rules. Some people just have to work harder than others. My parents put me in a situation that was better than I was born in a third world country in Kenya. And my parents, I happened to be born into a family that, and this was part of her argument, right? So she said that the reason I'm an outlier is because I was born into a family that encourages me and tells me I can do it and provides for me, right? I couldn't control that. I just got the situation I was given. I was born into a family that wanted a better life for their children. So they brought us here when I was 1 year old and my sister was 3 years old in 1997 and settled us here in America. And my dad fought his way up to save my mom and my dad saved their way to put me and my sister in through college. They saved for 20 years to put us in college and let us graduate debt free, which is what we both did. I could have very well have been born into a different family in Kenya that said, I don't really want to go to America. I'd rather stay here. And I would still be living over there in a completely different situation. Wouldn't even know what financial freedom is. Don't even know that's an option. Would be just hoping just to make a living every day. And so my whole thing is I didn't get to pick that. I just got the situation I got. And I came here and I worked. Now and I always like to use the analogy of a rung, right? A ladder, the proverbial ladder. My parents put me on this, let's say the ladder has 5 rungs. They put me on the second rung, right? By coming here. We're not on the bottom rung, maybe even the third they put me on. And my job now is to take my head start on the second rung or the third rung and climb my way to the 4th and the 5th rung, because I see people on the 4th and the 5th rung. And I'm like, yo, how did they got to the 4th and the 5th rung? But at some point they started at the bottom too. We don't know at which point they started at the bottom. It could have been their parents, or 5 generations ahead. But at some point they were on the bottom, and each person climbs the ladder even more. Now, the problem is a lot of people, and this is very prevalent in America, a lot of people are born into decent situations, right? But they sit here and they stay at the same rung. And we can even say, yes, like I said, the system is flawed. And there's things that are going to be thrown at you on the ladder. Things that are going to, people are going to try to rip your fingertips off of the ladder so you can't climb anymore, right? When we look at racism or, just even systematic or institutional racism or, marginalization in any type of way, people are trying to throw you off. The difference is some people, they keep climbing, they fall, whatever, and they keep climbing and they get back up. They don't play victim. And that's the essence of what I'm trying to say. I want to give an illustration. And this is one thing I was reading in the Bible. And this was actually on the Roommates podcast too. I'm not going to give a sermon, right? That's not what I'm trying to do. But I was reading in the Bible, the book of Matthew, there was a parable. I don't know if you've heard of this, Marlon, the parable of the 3 servants. Have you heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The book of Matthew. Go ahead.
Shout out to you. So, yeah, the parable of the 3 servants. There's a master, right? And then there's 3 servants. I'm gonna just read what that part said. I have it pulled up right here. He gave 5 bags, 2 bags, and then 1 bag, right? So it said that the servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earn more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. After a long time, the master returned from his trip and called them to give account of how they had used his money. The servant to whom the master had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, "Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more." The master was full of praise. "Well job, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." The servant, and this is like 3 more verses. The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, "Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more." The master said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I'll give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." Then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, "Master, I know you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back." But the master replied, "You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it." Then he ordered, "Take the money from this servant and give it to the one with 10 bags of silver." That is the parable of the 3 servants. Now, the reason I tell this story is because many people operate as the servant with 1 bag of silver. Most people are in the situation, correct? Most people are born into that situation with 1 bag of silver. But that being said, you are still born with something. You are still given something. You still have some sort of advantage. You still have something to leverage, right? You don't have nothing. You didn't get nothing. Nothing would mean how many people are born? Nothing? You telling me you ain't got nothing? No internet access? Not a dollar to your name? Nothing? You telling me you have nothing to leverage to go further? But you rather just complain and play victim and say that you can't do anything because the system isn't meant for you to advance. What sense does that make? And then what's going to happen, you see, is that little that you had, you're going to lose because you squandered it your entire life. You become older and older and older, and then it eventually does get to a point where it is too late. So that's how most people operate. But you have to be operating in a growth mindset, not a victim mentality. And I'm saying a lot of this with some sort of personality and character, but I'm very serious in the way I'm presenting. I'm talking about this because the thing is, the victim mentality never allows you to take responsibility for your own life. You're just going to blame everyone else. There was a motivational speaker that had said, his name was Steve Maraboli or something. He said that the victim mentality will have you dancing with the devil, then complaining that you're in hell. And it's what I see all the time. It's honestly just, I don't even care to help people that think like that. I want you to change your mindset, then I'll help you. And if I need to help you change your mindset, then that's another conversation, if you're actually willing, right? You're never going to take any action that isn't going to be congruent with what you think about yourself. If you think that you are a victim and that this world is out to get you, that's how you're going to live your life. Nothing is going to come to you. Nothing will come. You will get nothing. And that's just the essence of this whole conversation. So that was my take. Now, I know that was a lot to stomach and fathom, and I know that's a lot for you to respond to, but I do want to get your take on the subject and then a rebuttal or a response to what I had to say. So let me get some water.
So there's no way I'm gonna respond to everything you just said, but I'm gonna try my best to at least put it in frame, like what my perspective on the whole thing. So first off, I'm trying to figure out what your sister's friend was in reference to. I guess in reference to building generational wealth, in reference to saving and investing money. I don't know what she was saying that she cannot achieve because you are doing it.
So the situation was this. But there was a guy there, and he said that he couldn't do necessarily anything with he couldn't achieve greatness because he had so much debt. And there was so much debt that he had like student loans and all this stuff that he couldn't even buy a house. And that was his biggest thing. He couldn't get out of that. So it was my god sister also, but she was saying that in his defense, because I was telling him, you can still achieve. You just have to work harder than what other people will have to work harder than, right? Most people, or some people, actually a lot of people are already in that situation that you're in. So you're just starting from a lower rung. Some people start from a higher rung. That's just the situation.
Okay, yep. Now I got you. So his obstacle that he has is debt. And I want to say that there are so many excuses that people will use in order to justify why they're in their position and why they can't get out of their position. Now, I do want to say, you said that the system is a myth. I'm actually going to disagree with you on that. I'm not going to say that the system is a myth, because tell me how many times you came home and you saw that all of your appliances, all of your, or something that you had that was your personal belonging was outside. Tell me how many times you came home and your car was on bricks. Tell me how many times you've been shot at in your life. Tell me how many times you've been beat up in your life. How about how many loved ones have you lost that were close to you? Those are the type of things that people deal with on a daily basis in the inner city. So you may not.
No. Hey, whoa.
I'm told you, I'm about to bring the spice too. Come
Okay.
on.
No. But wait.
So I'm not making excuses. I am saying I'm setting up a scenario or an environment to put you. I want you to bring yourself out of your personal environment and put yourself in this environment. Now I'm going to tell you to go do the same thing that you've been doing. I'm not going to say you can't do it, but I want you to think of it outside of your own personal perspective of where you grew up at. We grew up in an environment where we pretty much had no worries whatsoever. All these things that they are growing up in, you didn't have to. So what you did say earlier was that if you had grown up in Kenya, you would have had a very different growing up, a very different outcome if you grown up over in Kenya. That's because it's a whole different country, a whole different set of rules. Capitalism isn't a thing out there the same way it is in the U.S. So I can get that. But now I'm just going to take what you said about being grown up in Kenya and put it somewhere else in America. Put it in, say if you never came to Texas. What if you grew up in New Orleans? What if you grew up in inner city of Detroit, where I was growing up at, where my cousins grew up at? These are different environments that produce different, that have different surroundings, and sort of say. So the best perspective I can give is from my parents. My dad tells me stories all the time about how he would come home and he has to literally turn on a light. He sees 1,000 roaches running around. Those are type of things that we can't even fathom doing or coming home to. Talking about how he's moved 5 or 6 times within a year because his mom wasn't paying rent. So these are factors that you are exposed to or experiencing that you are necessarily not, that you personally or me personally never had to experience or go through. So now, I said all these things not to make them excuses, but to make them a different perspective, to make them a different environment that you have to overcome. Now, like you said, there's all different rungs of the ladder people start at. That is starting on ground zero, or there's actually lower than that, because you can start in a third world country and still have to overcome those odds. Your parents grew up in a third world country and said, you know what? And this is what it really takes. What it takes for anybody is this mindset. You have to say, I don't care where I'm starting off at. I don't care if I'm starting off in the pits of hell dancing with the devil. I'm going to change my situation. That is the biggest key, because everybody's gonna start off on a different rung. We start off on second or third rung because that was just our environment we grew up in. Now, somebody may have started off on ground zero or down with the devil, whatever you may call it. But you have to make that choice in order to change your situation. Your sister's friend, or god sister's friend. That boy you was talking about that said I can't overcome my debt. He was pretty much saying that he hasn't made the choice yet in order to say that I can take control of my financial destiny. He's pretty much saying I'm a victim, or I can't achieve something because of this. And I put out a tweet earlier because of this exact thing. People naturally want to do as little as possible. And that's because that's just like, it's almost human nature. Now, there are some people that are outliers. Some people that are naturally more ambitious than others. But I would say the vast majority of people choose to do the bare minimum. I said this because I just look all around and I see certain factors that are proving this to me over and over in different ways. I see students, especially like with the online learning environment, there's cheating more so now than I've ever seen before in my life. As far as like pulling up phones, pulling up iPads, searching the answers. I said, bro, I understand that y'all are trying to be like, you can call it innovative or trying like finding solutions to hard problems, but at the same time, what y'all looking for is the easiest way out, the path of least resistance. And that is what people do on every aspect. People rather watch Netflix than read a book. It's easier. People rather eat candy or eat something that's bad for them than eat vegetables or something that's good for them. They rather sleep in rather than work out. All of these type of things are just all different examples of why people are going to play that victim mentality, because it's much easier to blame the system or blame something else, that some external factor, than as opposed to blaming yourself for why you aren't where you want to be. So I said all that earlier, but I would still agree with you on the fact that people will play the victim mentality or use it as an excuse, use the system as an excuse. It's just an example of the many excuses that they will use. But I would not say that it's a myth, though, because people do grow up in those different environments, and it's no fault of their own. I will say that because, like you said, you're not in control of where you grow up or where you are born into, but you do have control over where you end up at, because your mom, your dad made a decision to say, I want better for my children. You got to be thinking outside of yourself and change your mindset to say, okay, where I'm growing at right now is not what I want to have, or what I wouldn't want for anybody else. And I'm willing to forego being around my family, being around my friends, being around the environment that I grew up in for the sake of something better. Most people don't have that because it brings them outside of their comfort zone. And their comfort zone is literally like, I always say, the enemy of success is your comfort zone. And that's because when your comfort is, that's pretty much, you'll die in your comfort zone. Like, you'll just conform to your society, your environment, whether you're getting shot at, whether you're getting your stuff stolen every day, you just become used to it. And that's what most people have done. And really, I think what it is that, like, you don't want to lose all the ties that you have around you. Like people are fear some type of change. You fear going into a new environment. Like, you're not going to have anybody around you. So it's going to look very abnormal if you are growing up in Detroit, Michigan, as my parents did, and say, you know what? All right, family, all right, parents, all right, siblings, I'm out. They're gonna look at you like you're crazy. So you're literally like a one man saying, I'm about to go change, I'm about to go do something totally different than what everybody else is doing. You have no examples that show you that this would be successful. But you do see people around you, whether they're making it or not, you at least say that this is normal. This looks normal to me. So you have to be able to forego that familiarity in order to really make that difference. So like I said before, it is an excuse at the end of the day. The system is just another example of an excuse, but I will disagree with the myth part. And I do believe that people can change their circumstances, but I don't want you to discredit what people are going through, because we didn't have to experience that.
You done?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I acknowledge 100% what you say, and I understand what you're saying, but I have to disagree on the fact that you believe that the system is not a myth. The reason I say that it's a myth is because, yes, you're getting your stuff thrown out. Yes, you're getting shot at. Yes, there's roaches there. Life is not fair. Is that an excuse for me not to succeed? All things being equal, this is the common denominator. It's the fact that everyone starts at a different place. Everyone starts at a different level. That is out of your control. And because it's out of your control, you can't even let that be a factor in your success or not. It's not, you control what you can control. And yeah, people can hear this and say, well, you're speaking from a place of, you grew up how you grew up or whatever. People don't maybe or maybe not know, depending who you are, how I grew up. But I grew up, decently in the middle class, upper middle class. And that was how I grew up. Either way, I can tell you, I don't care what would have happened or how I would have grew up. I would have succeeded. And the reason I can say that with confidence, and yeah, a lot of people can say, well, it's based off of your circumstances and the environment you grew up. That's why you know that. Maybe that's true. But one thing I know is that nobody outworks me. Nobody. There's nobody that I can say that, yeah, that dude outworked me today. That dude, he probably smarter than me. That dude, whatever. No, my thing is, if something happens to me, I'll just tell you, when I was buying my truck, I don't even know if I said this on the podcast. Maybe I think I did in the last episode, actually. When I was buying my truck, I got denied by 10 banks to get that loan. I went to 10 straight banks and they all said no. It is what it is. That's the system. Was part of that because I'm black? Was that part of that because I'm young? Was part of that because I had little credit at the time, just my rental property? Was that the reason? I don't know. And to me, frankly, I don't care. I would have went to 50 banks because that's the situation I was given. What would it have looked like if I had been studying trucking for 6 months? At this point, this was in January, so it was like 5 months I had been studying trucking. And I just said, dang, these banks told me no. Well, guess can't get a truck. What? I would look like a fool. And most people would quit right there. And I would say that's foolish because why would you quit when you've done all that? And even if you haven't done all that, if that's something you want to achieve, you just have to fight through those obstacles, bro. The difference between people that succeed and those that don't is literally the fact that those that succeed, everyone faces obstacles. Most people the ones that succeed fight them and they maneuver around them. Like I said, we can't worry about the system or the things that are placed in front of us or I believe, and this is, we're probably getting 1-star ratings. Sorry, but I literally believe that, and that's fine. I don't care because I'm passionate about this. I believe that I'm not saying we start from the same place, but in the fact that we have no control over where we start equalizes it. And yes, some people have to work harder. That means you just have to get tougher. That means you have to work harder than someone else. You might have to work harder than me. It's just what it is. I mean, if that's the situation you were born into, that's the situation you were born into. I could very well sit here and say, dang it, man. Yeah. Trump, he's a racist. He's doing all these things to prevent, let's say I'm a Hispanic, right? And I'm a immigrant. We can sit here and say, yeah, Trump, he's racist. He doesn't want me to, he wants me to go back to my country and all of these things. But at the end of the day, Trump is not in your living room telling you, hey, you can't do that right now. You can't work on your business right now. You can't study that topic right now. You can't listen to that podcast. You can't work hard. Trump, yeah, and I'm not being ignorant and saying that those certain things don't happen. I know ICE comes on people's doors and throws them out of their house. I know those situations happen. But I'm just speaking in general, most people, you are letting outside circumstances control your life. And that's the whole essence of this conversation. Those things happen. What can we do about it? Because there's nothing we can do. What is the alternative? To cry? I'm not going to sit there and cry about it. We had to just work around it. And so when you tell yourself there's a system, I believe that you are literally, conditioning yourself to believe that you can't achieve. That's why I believe it's a myth. Now, the fact that it doesn't actually exist, of course, there's factors, like I said, that exist that inhibit people. But if you take it out of your head, then I believe that you can achieve whatever it is you want. And I know people are bashing me and cooking me right now, but I honestly don't care. So
now, I'm privileged to know a lot about you personally. That way I can at least have seen the growth and seen the progression. So now I can ask more in-depth questions or make more in-depth comments as a result. When you were growing up, who did you idolize?
Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant. Somebody who had a mentality to succeed no matter what was thrown his way. Somebody who people have seen Kobe Bryant. Lots of people who have grown up around, just grown up in the U.S. have seen Kobe Bryant play. That don't mean that they idolized him or looked up to him or even aspired to be like him. So now, with that being in mind, you have somebody like a mentor figure or some type of figure, some type of influence to say, this is what I want to be like when I grow up. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a basketball player, but it has to do with your mindset. And that's really what I'm seeing this is boiling down to. Because I know we preach this all the time. That's like one of my favorite things to talk about is mindset, because that's the essence of why people respond to certain things the way they do. Which used to idolizing Kobe, especially as of recent. I'm not gonna say as of recent because it's been like that for quite a while. With your drive and mentality, would you say that it had anything to do with you trying to be like Kobe Bryant?
In what way? Like a basketball player?
No, mindset wise, like trying to like you see somebody that's succeeding, like, oh dang, bro, that's what it looks like to succeed. That's what I need to try to be like. The point I'm trying to make though is that people when they are growing up in their environments, they either don't look for these influences or they don't have any surrounding them. And so now you have to really just in your personal self desire something regardless of what you've seen around you. If you have no type of influence or no type of person to like try to be like when you grow up, like if there's nobody in your circle of influence that is better than where you are currently at, or nobody that has made it out of where you currently are, you would not know where to look. Now, I will say the biggest advantage that our generation has over previous generations is that we have the internet. We have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. All these type of social media platforms allows us to see different people that are in different environments doing different things that we may not have been doing in our personal that we may not be doing in our personal situation. The problem is now that they're not right there in your inner circle. Now, that's not an excuse either, because Kobe was not in your inner circle, but you were able to look at him as an influence and say, hey, I want to be like that guy with his mindset, because that mindset is a mindset that would allow me to achieve my biggest desires in life. But first you have to make that decision to say, I want to be like that, or I'm willing to do what it takes in order to get there. Let me see. I had something else I wanted to say here. Oh, that's what it was. So now, once you had that mindset, you wanted to go venture out and figure out how to be successful. So now what you start doing is listening to podcasts, reading books, all the things that we preach about in order to be successful. Now tell me this, how many times have you heard on a podcast, oh man, I got denied by such and such amounts of banks before I finally got a bank's loan with my no credit on this house? How many times have you heard somebody say that about trying to buy whatever, whether it's some type of loan for an asset in order to make them money? What I'm saying that to say, you've heard that before, like you've seen that happen before, and so now you know, bro, it's a numbers game. Like it's like a funnel. Like the more times I hear this, or the more times I do this, it's more likely going to happen. Some people don't hear that in their life. So now, if you don't hear that, as soon as you get told no, either you have to have, like I said, you have to have it within you to say, I'm going to do this, or you could just fall into that mentality of, well, I was told no from this person, so that like they told me no for a reason. People, those are personality types when you boil it down to that. But if you've heard somebody tell you before, hey, if you go to, like, it doesn't matter how many banks tell you no, somebody can still tell you yes, then you may think differently. And like I always think to what my dad used to tell me, everything is negotiable. I would never have thought of that without him telling me that first. So now I'm willing to go into either a real estate deal or just even buying a car and say, I'm not paying that price because I know it's negotiable. But I wouldn't know that otherwise. And would I do it? Would I negotiate? Would I not? I don't know. But it just takes certain factors in your life to at least make you aware that certain things are possible. And I guess really all this boils down to is that some things that you have done or I have done or people who are successful have done is that they've learned some of their behaviors. Now, some people are just born with it. I don't know where Kobe got it from. I don't know if you know a story way better than I do. I don't know who inspired him in order to be like how he was or to gain that mentality. Some people are born with that, but a lot of people that you're talking to are not born with it, especially your god sister's husband or whoever that was. He's obviously not born with that mentality to say, I'm going to succeed regardless of my circumstances. So now, in order to convince somebody like that, you need to have somebody, this would be the most influential for him, somebody who has been in his situation and was able to overcome it. Those are people that will make the biggest change in somebody's life like that, because now they literally eliminate the excuse that they have for themselves. If they see somebody who had a lot of debt and still achieve success, now they can really relay that information to that person a lot better, because they can eliminate the excuse more physically. Like they can literally say, hey, this is how I did it step by step. I went through the same thing you were going through and still made it out. Now they have no choice but to listen. If they don't listen now, they just don't want to do it. And like I said, that's what some people do. Some people don't want to be successful. Some people don't want to do so. They rather play the victim mentality. That's their choice at the end of the day. That now people, like I said, people do play the victim mentality or make excuses for themselves. But once they see that something can be done or that they can overcome that situation because somebody else has done it before, it makes them a lot more adept to want to do it for themselves. That's just my personal belief on that.
Well, I'm going to say that saying that my mindset came from Kobe is a discredit to me because, and I know you didn't intend it in that way, but I believe it is. Because before I even knew who Kobe was, I didn't know who Kobe was until 2008. I was 12 years old at that point. But before I knew who that was, I was still on the same. I was on this path already before I was 12 years old, and that necessarily came from me just wanting to be the best. I hate losing. I'm very competitive. I've always been that way. I hate it. If you don't have that within, then you don't have that within. I'm not saying that you have to have that within, but I just hated losing. And that is what, at the end of the day, drives most of my stuff. What Kobe did for me was take it to another level in terms of mindset and knowing how to trick my mind into thinking things, although they look bad, it's actually it's a positive situation I can use. And I can use it to catapult myself to where I actually want to go. And like you said, yeah, Kobe isn't in my circle of influence, number one. So yeah, that definitely, whatever happened with him, it doesn't matter for me. Like he wasn't an influence. There's nobody because you said that, having people in your circle that made it out, from where you are to where you want to go. There's nobody in my circle that made it out of where I am to where I want to go. And I'm talking obviously wealthy, financial freedom, multimillionaire. There's no one in my immediate circle that I saw like, yeah, I want to do it. Just like I do that because I hate losing. Mm-hmm. And I'm just competitive. And to me, being average is losing. Being mediocre, having a 9-to-5, doing all that is losing to me. Let's be honest. It's losing. I want to win. I want to be better. I want to be the best I can be. I want to be the best in the world. That's just my mentality. You know me since over a decade now. So you know that about me. Kobe, I guess we met at actually the same time. We met at the same time I started watching basketball, which was 2008. And that's when Kobe kind of came into my life and did what he did for me. And like I said, you talk about me hearing stuff on the podcast like, oh, I went to 10 banks or whatever and I got rejected. Is that podcast not available to everyone? That podcast is available to everyone. And like I said, unless you are starting from zero, I'm talking 0, meaning you ain't got even no internet or you have nothing, then you have even additional circumstances. And yeah, you can even make it out of that. But I'm not even necessarily targeting this towards you. I'm talking to the general person, most people. If you're listening to this right now, obviously you have, internet access, and even, people that don't have internet access. Most people have some sort of resources. That's why I told the story of the three servants, because you have something. You just have to leverage that. But the problem is that most people, yeah, I know, I understand. Because when you say that, I know what you're saying in regards to, because we listen to a lot of the same podcasts and we heard a lot of those similar things. So I know what you're saying, because whenever I started doing those things, it seemed normal because it was like, oh yeah, you heard that on the podcast. But that, like I said, it's just my mentality. I truly believe had I not even heard it, it would have just been me. Because like I said, I don't like losing. And if I say I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do whatever it takes. And the only thing I want to say to, this whole thing is there's people that come from worse situations than everyone. Mm-hmm. And they succeed and they become multimillionaires. Whatever you want to say is successful. Even if you want even a healthy relationship with your spouse, if that's successful to you, there's people that come from even worse relationships or situations and achieve that. Right. And that's always what I think about too. It's like, I don't necessarily care about your excuses because there's someone else. I don't necessarily care that, and you can call it harsh or whatever, but I mean, that's fine. If that's what you want to call it, I feel like you got to callous your mind the same way you would callous your hands in the gym. When you go to the gym, your hands are protecting you and callous. They're getting callous so that you stay protected, rubbing it on that bar all day. So in the same way, you got to callous your brain and your mind to, against all these negative circumstances that are surrounding you. Like I said, everyone has different situations. That's the great equalizer, though. Not the great equalizer, but it's the common denominator. Everyone has a different situation, bro. Are you going to succeed or are you going to cry about it? There's obviously an idealistic world and a realistic world. The idealistic world would be for everyone to be, at a good situation, middle class, oh yeah, become wealthy, or even everyone starts at the same situation, whether that's poverty, wealth, middle class, whatever. But I'm talking realistic. Everyone's situation is different, and you cannot let that be an excuse to why you don't succeed. That's just the bottom line, man.
Yep. Now, I would say the way that you believe about it, that's a mentality as well. Like, if you can, like, that's what people need to really take away from. What this really boils down to, like I said, is your mindset. What are you telling yourself each and every day? Are you telling yourself that the system is rigged to where I can't succeed? If you tell yourself that, you're going to do exactly what you tell yourself. I talk about Sergeant Positive and Sergeant Negative all the time. And I talk about them because this is literally the people that you are telling. This is what you're telling yourself every morning. When you wake up in the morning, are you telling yourself, I can't succeed because of this? If you wake up and tell yourself that, Sergeant Negative is going to be up in the front of your mind and go look at all the factory workers behind them and say, hey, the boss said today we can't succeed, we can't achieve what we wanted to achieve. So let's make sure that every thought that comes into his head reinforces what he just said. Now you can wake up and say, dang, bro, I just got my tire sold off my car today. Well, good thing I got a bike because I'm about to get to work today because I'm about to make a difference for my life. Now you're telling Sergeant Positive to say, hey, regardless of my circumstance, I'm finna find a way out of this because I don't want this to be the rest of my life. I don't want my children to experience what I had to experience. And those are the people that end up making the children that are like us. They're the ones that end up moving to Texas or moving to New Orleans from Kenya. They're the ones that end up moving from Detroit to Houston, Texas when I'm in middle school. We're the products of those people who said, I don't care what environment I'm in, I'm going to make a difference for my family the rest of my life. I'm making a difference for the rest of my life and for the rest of my family's lives. And that can be anybody who's listening to this podcast right now who may not have grown up in the same situation as we did. I think that's where people really need to take away from. You may not be in a circumstance that you want to be in or the one that we grew up in, but there is still what it really comes down to is you telling yourself, I can still get out. And if you can tell yourself that, then I think that's where you'll be able to start making a change for yourself.
That we 100% agree on, 100%. And so that's really, the essence of it. I mean, I just always think about my situation too. I mean, what would it look like if my parents did what they did and then I just say I'm good now? Mm-hmm. I'm not taking it no further. They might not necessarily care because their goal was for me only to get, go to school, graduate, get a job, because that for them was better than where they were. The goal is the next rung for them. My goal is to the top rung, and that's my job. And I believe it's my responsibility to put my family in that situation and anyone else. And I believe everyone should have that mentality. So yes, man.
She said it's going to be 30 minutes. It's hitting the hour right now.
Yeah, y'all know us. So this should be nothing new. Anyways, y'all, definitely, in the ratings, let me know what y'all think. Who won the let me know who won.
Yeah,
hit us up. Yeah, put it in the ratings on Apple Podcast. Hit us in the DMs, whatever. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. But yeah, anyways, that's it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also find out more info about us on Instagram at Money Monopolizers or on Twitter at The Monopolizers. We post informative content on there to keep you engaged. So be sure to check that out and share them posts. Until then, we out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.